Mark 7:24-30. Jesus left that place and went. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want to know anyone to know it. Yet he could not keep his presence a secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek-born Syro-Phoenician. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First, let the children eat all they want. He told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Lord, she replied, even the dogs under the table eat children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. She went home and found her child lying on the bed and the demon gone. So it's interesting that all-powerful Jesus could not keep his presence a secret. And I wouldn't get too hung up on it. It's just like one of those things that's, I bet there's some very, very intelligent scholars out there who just come up with some new kind of sect of Christianity where it's like, I don't know, is he fully man, fully God? How do we really understand this? Because he's God, but he can't keep himself a secret. They really try to? They just fight and fight and fight to understand everything, so there's no mystery. That is not my experience with God. Like, there's no mystery. I don't even know what you're believing in, what you're putting your faith in. Like, there's a lot of mystery in Jesus and in God, because this Jesus who tried to enter the house and tried to be quiet about it is the same Jesus that created the earth, created everything. Nothing invisible or visible would exist without him. And you can't make like an invisibility cloak or something and just, I don't know, but I just think that's kind of interesting. I have noted on the side he's tired. He just wants a break, but people won't give it to him. So this woman, Greek-born in Syrian Phoenicia, she begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. So this woman, back then, racism wasn't seen as a bad thing back then. It was like, it just is what it is. You people are from there. You act this way. We're from here. We look this way. We act this way. We don't want to interact with you. It's just kind of how the culture was. It was not a melting pot of cultures. And this woman here was looked down upon. I don't think she'd be the type of person that Pharisees would talk to. They would definitely look down on her for being a Gentile. And she begged Jesus to save her daughter. He says, first let the children eat all they want. For it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. And she said, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. For such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. Then it did. So, I think Jesus is talking about her being a Gentile. First, he's supposed to go to the Jews first. That's the children. First let the children eat all they want. That's the Jewish community. Those are the people he's sent to first save. for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. I don't know. It's like we're like he's like referring to her as a dog. That's how that's how I see this. Like my first duty is to Israel. I can't, take the food I'm giving to Israel and toss it to the likes of you, which sounds so harsh. And Jesus can sound harsh sometimes, but it's always out of love, and he knows this woman very intimately. Like he just seems to know everyone. He knows everyone's heart, and she says, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. She wasn't insulted by it. She's saying, just give me the scraps, which I just don't understand. Like, why is that such a good reply? Why? How come that was the answer Jesus was looking for? I guess because he healed her daughter. That was a faithful response, and that's just kind of a mystery to me. I have a hard time understanding that passage. But I'm thankful that if I am interpreting that right, like, hey, I'm a Gentile, and I'm glad that Jesus shows mercies even to the dogs. And the gospel is for everyone. Mercy is for everyone. And he's sent to save the world, not just Israel. I'll just keep going. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon, down the Sea of Galilee and into the region of Decapolis. There some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk, and they begged Jesus to place his hand on him. After he took him aside away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears, then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven with a deep sigh, said to him, Ephphatha, which means be opened. At this, the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he begged to speak, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. He has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. So it seems like Jesus never heals people the same way each time. It's always different. And in this case, he spit and touched the man's tongue. He put his fingers into the man's ears, and he looked up to heaven with a deep sigh, and he said, be opened. So to me, like, I don't think Jesus is just doing random things. Like, there's a reason he put his fingers in the man's ear. There's a reason he spit and touched the man's tongue. And I think it has to do with the spiritual world that we can't see. There's a whole dimension that we are just totally naive to. We don't understand it. We don't understand the physics of it. And we're blind to it, at least mostly in this life. So Jesus is not blind to it. He knows. He doesn't just believe. He knows. He knows who he is. He knows his power. He knows what needs to be done. And it's a very unique way of healing someone. I like how this man's friends, I like it when people's friends always beg him to heal their friend, Those are good friends. And it's interesting how, like, I remember reading somewhere, like, this dude he wrote a book. He said, like, how can you always have to ask God for everything, because if you don't ask, how can God give you something you don't ask for? It's like, man, you don't even have to read the Bible to know that's true. Like, I've barely asked God for, like, I'd say like 99% of the things I had, 99% of the things I have, I did not ask for. He just gives me out of grace. And this man didn't ask for it. He couldn't ask for it. He was incapable of asking. And yet God chose this man to be saved. I believe he was saved. He wasn't just healed. I think he was saved. I like how Jesus commands him not to tell anyone. It's totally opposite of how we think. If you're trying to make an impact in the world, you got to get big, man. You gotta follow the business plan to the road to the successful mega church or whatever. And Jesus doesn't do that. He rests solely on the Father. He commands them not to tell anyone. But like half the time they ignore him, which I think is interesting. Humans are the only ones that can tell God no. Squirrels can't do that. Deer can't do that. Only humans. Yeah, that's all I got.